Hi, Andy Schmuckler. There's something about this Republican Party that seems to me quite remarkable, and I don't think it's remarked upon very much. It is remarkable how little it ever talks about or attempts to do anything that will actually make the lives of their supporters better. And yet, their supporters remain their supporters. What's going on there? Why is it that a whole bunch of Americans would feel fine about supporting a political party that isn't interested in cooperating to get things done? They aren't interested in having their representatives do what I think you could morally easily demonstrate any political actor ideally should do in a democracy, which is to use the whole situation with to do what work with other people to get as good a result for the people, for the nation, for the future as possible. Uh, there's no way there could be anything else that fundamentally people are there to achieve what ideally what government ideally would do, which is to find the best way forward. There are agreements and there are disagreements and there are things that can be done on the basis of people having some shared purposes and some shared values and deal with the disagreements aside. Ideally, I mean, that's obviously what you would want your government to do. We've got a whole political base that uh, doesn't care whether its representatives do that. That they actually welcome and support uh, their leaders doing the opposite of that. For example, both when Obama and Biden become president, there are opportunities which cooperation could have realized. But we did not move forward very well. We got better health and coverage situation as a result of it, but he never got to be the transformative president that he wanted to be, and that he could have been actually if he had a different kind of opposition that was looking for ways of doing whatever the best could be worked out between them. But Obama was incapable of dealing with somebody that was had made. We now know for sure that they made his failure their priority. So it was across the board obstructionism, and basically took power away from him in all sorts of ways, so that he was left at the end only able to do with executive actions because he couldn't get anything through Congress. I mean, he was not transformative. And he would have been done a good job because he was intelligent, he was reasonable, he was somebody who was definitely basically well intentioned. The author of the book, Something of My Father, I mean, he was a real human being. He had the capability, if he had been in, had the ability, he, if the country had worked cooperatively, we could have made some real progress that we didn't make. And then when Biden, and let me just say, that did not cost the Republican Party any support in conservative America. They did not look at this across the board obstructionism where politics was being conducted as war. They didn't mind that there wasn't another kind of a relationship in which good things would get done. Goodwill toward men. And instead of continually making everything a fight, which is what across the board obstructionism is, Instead, you find, well, what's the best that we can accomplish together? That's what you want. What's with the Republican base that was willing to continue to support a Republican Party that was just trying to make, had a top priority, we know, to make Obama fail, even at a time when he takes office, when the whole world economy is sort of teetering on an abyss because of that huge financial crisis. They want him to fail. What's with the Republican base that they're willing to go along with that? If the president fails, it stands to reason that the country's not going to be doing so good either. But something had happened in the Republican base in that relationship, and this is how it looks to me. On the one hand, the fascistic power does nothing particularly to help the people, because that's not its concern. It wants more power. But it works on the people to demonize other groups of people, make them hate other groups of people, and therefore to get gratification, not from things getting any better for them, but from seeing the people attacked by the leader that he has trained you to hate. I did talk radio out here in the Shenandoah Valley in the 90s, and there wasn't so much hatred then when you crossed the boundaries. And I was on a different side of a whole lot of boundaries from the people I was talking with in some meaningful conversations. There was a different spirit there. There was enough more goodwill toward men and enough more, let's work together to create a conversation that's meaningful and create a bridge where we actually can recognize each other as human beings. I've tried to tell the conservatives that in a group of liberals, Unitarians or whatever, there's just as much basic human goodness as there is in any group of a similar sort on the conservative side. And I have lived in both worlds, and I really think that that's fundamentally true. But something happened from back in the 90s to where we are now, and where we've gotten to over time, as a certain spirit took over the Republican Party and started training people more and more into hating the other side. Because if you can get people, apparently, who would have thought you could do this? But if you can get people enough invested in fighting against people that they hate, because they've been demonized by the ruling propagandistic powers into thinking that liberals are terrible people, when they're just, as worthy of respect as your average conservative. To hate them is enough so that they feel satisfied to have nothing about making anything better, but to wage a war against people that they hate. Now, that is a very dark spirit, and I think that I'm not exaggerating in saying that this is really a part of the fundamental thing that's going on. There are many dimensions to this fascist power, but one of them is that the Republican Party is supported by a whole bunch of people who are not at all invested in making things better, who have instead a passion for hitting out at people they hate. And so they can vote for a guy who's great at creating an us versus a them. This is what I think you can see operating where, as a theme in fascism in general. And one thinks, of course, of the Nazis' use of the Jews, and a lesser extent of people who other kinds of people who were unacceptably different. Uh, we in America right now have a power that's in place, like Donald Trump, a guy who, when he ran for president, didn't present any picture of this is what I want to do for you. This is how I'm going to make your lives better. This is how I'm going to make America better. His infrastructure week, became a joke. He was not interested in doing anything that moved things forward, and he didn't pretend to. He wasn't putting out programs that said, I'll make sure that you have better access to this or that, or education or health or raise the minimum wage, whatever the deal is. There was nothing that really particularly interested in him. And yet, he had this huge, fervid following because this is the fascist relationship, the sick relationship, where I will give you people to hate, and then I will be very effective, and you will feel very gratified, own the libs, that kind of a spirit. I define evil as a coherent force that consistently works to make things more broken or to make things worse. And I claim to be able to show exactly that there is that kind of coherent force, and it's an important thing to understand about what has gone on in the human world since we stepped into the unprecedented thing of the path of civilization. We have power and we have the needs of people. And they have been in conflict since the beginnings of the rise of civilization. So that you end up wherever civilization emerged, pretty soon you've got a structure where there's a war waging imperial power at the very top, tyrannizing the mass of people. The needs of the people. I would bet that the average human being in the Mesopotamian Empire or the Nile Empire or any of those other empires was living a life that was less fulfilling than their hunting gathering ancestors. So that's where I'm coming from, that there's something that happens when we cross the line into being civilized, and it creates a situation where something like fascism, tyranny, something cruel and power lusting, and something that we can see in the fascist regimes of the 20th century, and we can see in Putin's Russia, and we can see it in Trump's America, and we can see it too much for my taste, even in Israel. This is a structure, and one of the main tools of it always is to do something to the way people relate to other groups of people. It's a way of dividing the people against each other so that they cancel each other out, and the fascist power that's playing this game gets to do what it wants to do, which is to control everything, to get everything. It is a brilliant strategy to demonize some other group of people, get other people your supporters to see them as evil, you can't really cooperate with real baby killers. And then, having fomented a hatred, go after that group. And particularly, the big twofer that the fascist leader gets out of this brilliant strategy is by getting people into a place where they are satisfied with the gratification they get when you attack the people that you've taught them to hate. There's a process by which people who on Sundays believe in goodwill toward men and peace on earth follow a political power into a place where that's not what they want from their representatives. They are satisfied to have somebody like Trump, who hasn't, in 2020, the convention that nominated Trump remarkably had no platform. I mean, the American tradition is that the national conventions are a place where the party puts out its mission statement, its vision for where it wants to take America. And, some propaganda and some empty stuff, but it is a mission statement. It means something. And that convention had nothing except whatever Donald Trump says. Already the spirit of fascism is shown there. And the relationship that fascism has is one where people aren't asking to have their lives made better. They're sufficiently into enmity and conflict that they'll be satisfied with a party that's good at those things. And this Republican Party has been very good at those things. So there's a place that people got to from the 1990s where there was some of that spirit, but not that it wasn't predominant. There was more of a basis of, we could have, one could have cooperated on the basis of that relationship. And in my work in making radio conversations, that was a kind of a cooperation. And people liked the idea of being able to come together despite our disagreements and do something worth doing. That was still possible then. And then I've had a ringside seat to see, even though I'm still mystified, but in some ways, by how it was accomplished. But the people who were in the 1990s, you could build something with conversation or in Washington, policies had gotten to a place where they were satisfied to hate and to fight against, particularly the rivals of the fascist power. So they hate Democrats, they hate liberals. And they're willing to line up against the press. And there's a whole list, actually, of things that come under suspicion that are actually, in all of them, in one way or another, are rivals for the kind of authority that the fascist power is trying to get to. That's the essence of fascism. It's all about power. And the leader, by establishing this relationship, gets a great twofer. On the one hand, he's able to tie the people to him. I don't really know how important the hatred of Jews was for Hitler, what Hitler was able to do with the rest of the German people, but it was a central thing of some sort. There's a psychology going on here, and it's also at a spiritual level. There's a psychology of, are we focused on the conflicts? And then there's the question, where do I want to take things? And I'm wondering if the people who have lost, it seems to me that maybe a lot of people have lost the ability to envision the possibility that good things could get done, to recognize that the people on the other side are human beings like oneself, and there's no particular reason not to seek out a way of having the best possible relationship, despite the differences. I mean, isn't that obviously what one group should do with another if you want to live in a healthy society? You find out what's the best way of coexisting together. It's a really good step forward to regard the people on the other side as being just as human, have just as much human goodness in them, and their own principles that they've also worked to arrive at, and a certain degree of mutual respect that goes with the idea that other people have other ways that aren't necessarily disqualifying them from respect, affection, appreciation. And if you get that kind of goodwill among men, what can't you achieve together? I felt like I was growing up in an America where we had some capacity, actually, that had built up to be able to take action together in the political realm to move things forward. We lost that along the way. And one of the reasons we lost that is that on the conservative side, the relationship between the ruler and the ruled became less of the rulers out there to serve the people and more that the ruler is out there manipulating the people into a kind of relationship that serves his interest in the struggle for power, getting more power because he's got this strong support of people he's gratifying by attacking their enemies, owning the libs, getting more support because he's able to represent those people and to attack them in a way that choosing targets that are potential adversaries in his drive for more power. The fascist leader, and it never gets enough power. I mean, Hitler was the biggest guy in Germany, but that wasn't enough for him. Putin was the biggest guy in Russia, but that wasn't enough for him. Donald Trump has been elected to the most powerful office in the United States, but that's not enough from him. He'll usurp powers from Congress. He'll violate the laws that were supposed to limit his range of authority. You know, there's some things that he's done that the law doesn't allow him to do. That's what the courts are largely finding. And during all that time, liberal America really didn't do much to interfere with the establishment of that relationship. They did not fight for the hearts and minds of Rush Limbaugh's audience. I know that from personal knowledge. They didn't think Rush Limbaugh's audience was their concern. But we have a lot of Americans that I believe we can infer are in this kind of relationship with power, in which the spirit of hate is operating more powerfully in that political realm than any spirit of love. The spirit of hate leads to conflict. The spirit of love is what gets good things accomplished. I felt in the 1990s that I knew that there was a lot of goodness in conservative America. It was a new experience for me, and one that I very much appreciated. There is a lot to America and to conservative America. There's a lot to appreciate. There are defects, but there's a lot to respect also. And I had the honor of interacting with it in meaningful conversations. But something's happened to it. And I wish I knew what would what kind of approach from the other side to, well, how do we establish the kind of relationship in the political sphere that we want, where we've got basically we got two parties that can work together, that represent the people well, that will work together to get good things accomplished. You know, a lot more movement in that direction. How do we get there from here? Now, liberal America hasn't paid very much attention. I'm always struck by this, how little attention we've paid to what's been happening in the consciousness of conservative America. I believe very strongly that the conservative America that existed in Eisenhower's era when I was growing up, and that existed in Reagan's America when I was fully adult and raising a family and like that, that was an America in which there was a different spirit. And something transformed that spirit, say, from the Republican world of Ronald Reagan up through the Republican world of Newt Gingrich and Fox News and Rush Limbaugh, and into the Republican world of George W. Bush, Karl Rove, Dick Cheney. The whole journey there, in which the relationship between the Republican Party and the people it represented was being transformed into one where the Republican Party was no longer willing to work cooperatively to see what might get accomplished, like the famous Tip O'Neill, Ronald Reagan getting some things done. And how did the people who were then goodwill toward men become transformed into regarding other people as evil, the baby killers, the kind of people who you wouldn't think of cooperating with because, gee, they're evil. I got to watch this happen. It was to counter Rush Limbaugh that I went into radio work, and wanted to undo what I saw he was doing. And one of the things he was doing, he was communicating complete contempt and scorn and hostility toward liberals. And all of those ramifications. And people were spending hours and hours and hours with this guy. And liberal America never seemed to rouse itself to prevent that kind of rupture in the relationship between the different sides of America. I mean, the difference between Dwight Eisenhower versus Adlai Stevenson in 1952 and 1956. Those were men you could consider to be, in some basic ways, brothers or at least cousins, members of the same American tribe of operating the American government in a good spirit of public service. And you could be pretty well, there were differences, but they were bridgeable, and everybody recognized when the other side's president was president, that person was the president. And then we get to where we've been through since then. And liberal America really didn't notice that something had been changing, the way they treated Bill Clinton to get to the point of impeaching him. That was politics as war. And Democrats, for some reason, acted as if it's still politics as usual. It wasn't. When Obama became president, America had a big opportunity, I think. He wanted to be a transformational president. We paid a big price because of this sick relationship. Because of that sick relationship, the Republican Party maintained full loyalty of the conservative American base, while they made Obama's failure their top priority. This we know they decided to do even before he was inaugurated. Now, I think Obama blew that battle. That's another story. The point is here, the Republican Party adopted toward Obama a policy of across-the-board obstructionism. That is an indefensible policy. No person who's in a remotely whole frame of mind would say that's okay. Obama wanted to be a transformational president, and with a reasonably constructive opposition, he would have been. But because the Republican Party could keep the loyalty of all those people by making war on the people they'd been taught to hate, like the birther lie on Obama, taking the legitimacy away. And then with Biden, the same damn pattern. So much opportunity squandered with Obama, who could have been a good transformational president if given half a hand. And then Biden enters the presidency, gets inaugurated in 2021. And America is sitting at a point of sort of multiple crises where we're going to have to do some things that will also constitute not only dealing with the crisis, but using it as an opportunity to restructure America, to move things forward. I don't remember what all I wrote about it at the time, but I think there were three major crises that were provided a huge opportunity if Biden and the Republicans had been able to work together to find out how much they could agree on accomplishing. But the Republican Party showed absolutely no interest, and that was hugely consequential. I believe the condition of America today, even independently of the rise to power of this fascist thing, is very far from where it could have been if the political system was operating with two parties that were interested in seeing what could they accomplish that would be good for the country and the people. You got two parties that are willing to work to see what's the best we can do, you will move forward. I don't believe we've moved forward very well at all. And then when you throw in the 2024 election and its ugly consequences, we've paid a huge price in all sorts of ways for the effectiveness of this sick relationship. It has given the fascist power the twofer of bringing people to its support on the one hand, and at the same time, weaponizing those people to strike at whatever it is that lies in his path as he goes on his fascistic, never enough quest for more and more power. I think it's worth thinking about this, what it means if you've got a human being with a huge amount of power, whose main motivation is to get more. It goes along with the people who have billions and billions of dollars, Koch brothers, who are willing to sacrifice children and grandchildren of everybody to get more, billions more. when you're dealing with the kind of thing where there's no, it's an insatiable need. There's something broken. It's like a leaking pipe. And that brokenness fits in with conflict rather than peace, lies rather than truth. Liberal America failed to fight to prevent this relationship from getting established. And we've paid huge price for the failure to keep conservative America out of that relationship that the fascist powers can exploit. But I think any sane policy about how do we get from where we are now to a world where our politics are reasonably constructive. We need to be asking ourselves about that relationship. What way is there for the rest of America to deal with people who are in that relationship in such a way as to maximize the chance that with time we can move from this world where we have a political party that behaves indefensibly and gets lots of public support. We have a lot of people who have chosen hatred over love. Can they be brought more into love? There are a lot of people who have allowed their minds to become willing to believe things that are obviously untrue. Can they be brought back into more of a relationship with reality? A part of America is now spiritually and in some ways cognitively in a very broken position. And we need to establish relationships as best we can that might lead to a future in which, instead of having a fascistic party that's built on the sick relationship of hate, we have a good conservative party that's built on the idea of, with peace on earth and goodwill toward men, let's see what we can do together with our shared purposes, of which there are many, and our shared values, of which there are many. There are ways forward that people find if that's what they're devoted to. And in the battle between good and evil, getting good things done is clearly on the right side of the line. And not even caring about getting good things done suggests there's something going on in this Trump party that's the opposite of good. Thank you very much. Like if you like, subscribe if you're interested. My business is trying to create an integrated picture of our human situation and our situation as Americans in particular, and claim to have put a lot of things together in an integrated way that puts some fundamental questions in a wholly different light. This talk, what is it about? It's about people getting trained into hating another group of people, and that facilitating a destructive fascistic force. Thank you. Bye-bye. My website, where I deal systematically with things in writing, is abetterhumanstory.org, and I invite you to check it out if an integrated picture that puts things into a importantly different light would be of interest to you. Thank you. Bye-bye.